The Section 5 inspection regime is well underway, but for those on the front line, there are still a lot of questions. Three determined primary heads from a cross-section of schools have come to Ofsted HQ to get their questions answered. Between them, they have more than 20 years of senior management experience, and this is their opportunity to examine what inspectors are really looking for. Time to turn the tables on whole school primary inspector Susan Gregory.
We've got to be really careful that the self-evaluation form doesn't become a red herring.
I've been talking to some head teachers who've had one of these new style inspections, and they say it's been very varied, the people who've been spoken to, and particularly the teachers who've been observed.
How do the teachers feel if they weren't seen or talked to?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, actually, because teachers probably, although they don't like it, would like to be seen. You felt that as well, didn't you, from people you'd been speaking to? So.
Yeah, the inspection I know within Barnet went very well, but some teachers weren't actually seen in that school, so that feeling of being part of the team, contributing to a major part of the school year was a difficult one for teachers.
I have a concern for those schools where they've been placed in special measures, where teachers may not have been observed. They may develop a view that they've been tarred with the same brush, that they didn't actually contribute to the actual process.
How are inspectors managing that part of it?
We can't pretend in a one-day inspection or a two-day inspection that we're going to see everything. That's not what it's designed to do. The Section 5 process is about getting to the heart of things that really matter, and it won't get to everything. And that's an important role for heads, to really help teachers to understand that there are incredibly important aspects of what the school is doing that won't be under rigorous scrutiny during a Section 5 inspection.
I think my point was also linked to the fact that the school felt there was an overemphasis on inspecting the teaching in the tested year groups, which would be year 2 in a primary school and year 6. Is it going to be the data from the testing subjects becomes more important than any school-generated data in non-core subjects?
In a very short inspection, the focus is going to be on outcomes. So what's happening for pupils by the time they get to the end of a key stage.
So as well as inspecting those year groups, they would be looking perhaps at the personal development and talking to children at the same time.
Yes. So there's no blueprint actually about it happening in a particular way in every single school, because it will be determined by the contextual factors, what the school wants the inspection team to look at, and the dialogue that then is generated around the SEF. And the team will constantly, and for what reasons. The starting point for every Section 5 inspection is a self-evaluation form.
Right.
Occasionally, a SEF will gloss over quite important issues. An example of that might be where the PANDA data suggests that children make satisfactory progress, and the SEF says, in our school, children do very well indeed. Where a SEF reflects a school as far as you can see at the pre-inspection stage, then what the inspection team will do during the inspection is set up some inspection trails to test out some of the assertions that the school has made in the SEF. And so that then will determine where the inspection team goes.
I had heard that because the short inspection might focus more on the core subjects of the curriculum, that a school might, over time, get a spot visit from a subject HMI.
If you're in a primary school, you might. Okay, it's not a given that you'll have one within the 3-year cycle.
And that could be for any subject?
Could be for any subject. If it's a primary school, it's usually a one-day inspection. It will be focused on the self-evaluation that the school provides of the work in that particular subject.
So what I'm asking is, will we be getting subject inspections, say, in art and design?
You may well do.
So that there's an interest in the wider curriculum. That's what I'm pushing at.
You
really,
certainly will do.
I presume there is other data that Ofsted has available apart from just the SEF and the PANDA.
We're reliant on local intelligence to
What
really
do you mean by
trigger.
local intelligence? That sounds...
Okay, that's an interesting term,
way
a
of
new bit
expressing
of
it.
Ofsted jargon, isn't it? It's about working with local authorities, working with schools. How successfully did you feel your team managed to gather evidence from the governing body?
I was fortunate as much as my chair of governors, who's very experienced, was available. However, that was through luck rather than judgment, because you just can't plan with a 2-day sort of like lead-in to have governors available at the drop of a hat, really. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I was wondering as well about parents, how parents are involved in this new inspection. Was that more difficult or easier this time?
I think you've got to have your data there, though, haven't you? You've got to have, as the previous system was, to collect information from parents.
But is there still a questionnaire that goes to parents?
There's a questionnaire that goes out, and you need to turn it round very quickly.
Did you use other data from parents that you might have got under self-evaluation?
That is one of our development points, really. I mean, that's.
Well, would you think that would be a good idea to have?
Absolutely. I think it's something that a lot of schools need to take on board, and we will be doing that.
There will be some schools that feel as though they haven't had enough dialogue. We're not all brilliant at doing things as well as we can.
I think that, definitely.
And we know there are things to improve. For inspectors in September, where you are.
Can I also ask a question then about the evidence that might be requested to back up statements in the CEF? Again, people that I've talked to have said they've been advised that they should have, for every point they make in their CEF, they should have a paper trail and have it to hand for the 2-day inspection. I mean, how close is that to what you're expecting?
That sounds as though that would increase bureaucracy rather than reduce it.
Well, we're slightly cynical about some parts of it.
I think also, across different local authorities, schools are doing very different things.
Very different things.
In our local authority, we're asked to do a Barnet's own type of CEF document for Barnet, and then we have to do CEF for potential Ofsted.
Does it have to be in the Ofsted CEF format? Is it not good enough to have a school self-evaluation document that is presented to Ofsted at the time that a school comes forward for an inspection?
Some schools may choose to do that. They are being encouraged to complete a self-evaluation form and to submit that. We're hoping that head teachers won't shut themselves away in rooms, fill out the CEF and then produce it for the inspection team, because that's not going to give a very good flavour of how the team works in the school. Schools are not expected to provide portfolios. That's what Ofsted's stance is. Schools should be able to point to the evidence. And that doesn't mean show me by getting out 10 files. It means give me an indication of where the evidence is and show me.
So that, in a way, could be where the head would say, well, you need to go and speak to so-and-so. So the evidence could be that kind of evidence as well as a paper trail.
It could well be.
Which, again, would cut down work then.
Well be. What inspectors will do now is they'll say, let's have a look at maybe a couple of your children. Let's have a look at how well they're doing. Let's have a look at the things that you've done to support their progress, to support their personal development.
So can you tell us, when do you freeze the CEF then?
What does a frozen CEF look like?
Absolutely.
Isn't it interesting how playground whispers and Chinese whispers get around? What actually happens is, when the school gets the phone call, at that point, a copy of the CEF will have been taken from the school's site. Let's say you haven't yet done your analysis of the SAT results fully from the summer term, and that you haven't updated your CEF. That's not a problem. All you need to do is make sure that the lead inspector knows about the status of your CEF and the fact that there is more data and there is more evidence that you want to talk about that isn't necessarily reflected in the document that's been taken off your website. So there's nothing that can be frozen. Please reassure colleagues of that.
And what would you be expecting schools, in terms of making their own judgments? We've had debates, haven't we, about whether you should aim for the next highest judgment to what you really feel or the one below. What's the view coming out about that at the moment?
I think I'd have to ask you, what would be the value of pretending that the school is where it isn't, trying to cover things up? How can that possibly benefit children ultimately? And that's what CEF should capture.
I don't think you need to worry about that so much, because I think as head teachers we're quite modest, aren't we, about making our own judgments. We'd rather put it the level perhaps to what it is and hope that somebody would say, actually, you're actually better than you think you are. I think that's an outcome.
And I guess in a sense then they're checking out the head teacher's judgment of the school, aren't they? If that's the heads put the CEF together, they're working with the school to see if the judgments are right.
They're testing out the judgment of the leadership and the leadership of teachers and other people who have a role to play in the school.
And I have heard as well of heads spending their entire summer holiday doing their CEF because they felt under pressure to have it ready just in case. You know, are there going to be any good examples, good practice that we can look at and helping to train us to give you the right information?
I think it's a concern if head teachers are spending the whole of their holiday pulling together a CEF. We've got to be really careful that the self-evaluation form doesn't become a red herring, because what really matters is the quality of the self-evaluation process, its links with school improvement planning, and ultimately how that impacts on how well children do and the quality of the provision in the school. If schools are writing very long CEFs, and they are, some of them, then what we're finding is they're telling us about what they do rather than the impact of what they're doing. Say as a head teacher, you're worried that inspectors will miss something really important, so you put everything in the CEF, including the time that children have break in the morning and play in the afternoon. That's not what the CEF should be. So what's it identified in terms of its strengths? What's it identified that it's needed to do next, and what's the outcome of that been? And that's what should be in the CEF, and that's what should generate the dialogue. And you can really help out with that.
There's a little bit of pressure there, and I just wondered how inspectors manage that, the personal ambition, the personal nervousness about an inspection for the head teacher.
You'll probably be reassured to know that inspectors are inspected as well. So part of my role is to go out with other HMI and quality assure inspections, so we're inspecting the inspectors, and I too am inspected. And that's right, because we're accountable for the quality of what we do. And inspectors must be sensitive with heads, and we hope that we get that right. We don't always, we know that.
Are there enough inspection teams to meet the demand, shall we say, of the 3-year cycle? And people who want to be inspectors, that's always interested me, actually.
Well, it's interesting because we've got a much reduced workforce now. So what regional inspection service providers or contractors have been able to do is really take the best of the inspection workforce that we have to offer, and very much looking for practitioners like you to come forward and join inspection teams.
So you would hope head teachers could continue as head teachers and maybe do one per term?
That's what we're hoping,
Right.
yes.
Are you happy that you have got the right workload for the teams, that they haven't got too much on in 1 week, that by the end of the week, if you're at school at the end of the week perhaps, you might get shortchanged in some way?
As good employers, we should be mindful of the right sort of work-life balance for our inspectors so that they're able to really conduct inspections of the highest quality. And you're right, it's something we need to keep an eye on. Some inspectors lead an inspection and might contribute to aspects of another inspection during a week. But as I say, you know, that's certainly something that we would be mindful of in how we deploy our team.
Just a bit of feedback for you. I think Ofsted have improved that part of it hugely. I think I've had 4 inspections, and each one has been improvement in the personal relationship with the head teacher. So we've begun to fear it less and feel that a relationship can be developed and we can show our best. And if you establish that good relationship, it's good for us all, it's good for the children.
Yeah.
Don't know how you feel, Andy.
I think the more inspections we have, the better it becomes for us all.